his response was, the DDM is here. It sounds like Jesus. Everybody, where is Jesus? When is Jesus coming? No, understand. No, Jesus is already here. No, we are looking forward to the possibilities. But with all things, this concept of the DDM could also just end up being nothing if we don't take it seriously and we put in the heart in particular and the minds that are necessary. I truly, truly believe that no matter how many good minds you have, if the hearts are not in the right place, you are not going to get anything done. They might as well just stop and not do anything. So we urge you to continue to work with heart and to encourage your colleagues to work with heart in ensuring that we hire the right people. Because even if you don't have the right people with the right minds, but the right hearts will lead you to go and recruit the right minds. Thank you very much, Acting DG, for your presentation, for your time, for traveling so far to this inquiry. We appreciate your time. The time is now 3:30. You are officially released. Program Director.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, we have the Provincial Department of COPTA, led by Mr. Ngubane. Mr. Ngubane will take the evidence table as soon as it is cleared and sanitized. Thank you.
Thank you.
Their presentation starts on page 223, Commissioner. Mr. Ngubane, you also have 25 minutes just to try and summarize as best as you can, and then thereafter the panel will engage with you. Just to confirm that you have the 231, is that your presentation that we've marked there starting at 231?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to respond.
Yes, I just want to confirm
Yes.
Yes, 231. Okay.
Yes.
That's the one that you're going to be using. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Babu Ngubane.
Thank you.
To yourself and your delegation. I'll now hand over to Commissioner Spanier for administration.
Thank you, Chairperson, Mr. Ngubane, and your delegation. Mine is to explain the administration of the oath. There are two ways of tendering evidence before the commission. One way is to do it under the prescribed oath, and the alternative one is to do it after making an affirmation if a person has got a serious objection towards taking the prescribed oath, usually based on religious grounds. May I find out whether anyone from you who's got a serious objection towards taking the prescribed oath?
No.
No one. Then, secondly, I would like you to place on the record your full names and surname, as well as the position that you are holding in COPTA, Mpumalanga Provincial Sector.
Well, my name is Samuel Ngubane. I'm the head of department of COPTA, that's Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Department in Mpumalanga Province.
Thank you, Mr. Ngubane. And then the gentleman in the middle.
My name is Bomani Cornelius Mtuwane. I'm the Acting Chief Director Development and Planning within the Department of Culture in Mpumalanga Province.
Can you check whether your microphone is on? Just hit it. Right. Rewind. Repeat what you have just said.
My name is Bomani Cornelius Mtuwane. I'm the Acting Chief Director Development and Planning within the Mpumalanga Department of Culture.
Thank you. And the last gentleman on the left.
Good afternoon. My name is Simpiwe Nene. I'm the Chief Director for Municipal Support in Court.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Do you swear that the evidence that you will give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If that is the case, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. You this one in.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Ismanueli. Abungubani, as indicated by the Program Director, you have 25 minutes, which begins now.
Thank you very much. I will not waste much time, Chairperson, and the panel here. And I must thank you for inviting us and be a part of the group that will present its evidence in terms of the report that we are supplying to you for your perusal. And I'm sure that for the rest of the day, we've been having all the municipalities who will be confirming much of the things that are said in our reports. And of course, I would be sounding like a scratch record if I were to go through all the slides, actually repeating what the districts have been saying, what National Department of Cooperative Government have been saying. All what we will do is to actually register that indeed the evidence that we are presenting, we stand by it. And of course, it is from those pages, as has been recorded here, from page 231 to 291, which is the state of local government. Of course, Mr. Mbene can just give you the highlights in 5 minutes, and it's strictly 5 minutes, just so that we can go into the second report, which also deals deeply on matters of service delivery, and we are trying to highlight things that neither the district nor the national department has highlighted here. And it will just show some certain colors from slide 292 to 338 of the evidence that we have presented. Again, Dr. Tiwane next to me can just go and zoom into those tables with colors because it summarizes the story that we are telling here. And of course, I must just state that maybe we are one of those that have actually used closely, Professor, the policy of government about the government agencies assisting us, just so that National Treasury can look into the figures if they comply with the statistics house. But we do have in our background the information that we generate with our municipalities, and we do some comparative analysis before we can actually dispose of with such records. But unfortunately, because the policy demands of us that we stick closely and we work with the data house of the country, which is Statistics South Africa. And of course, in terms of the Act, as you may know, their job is to assist us to do that kind of collation of information and data that will assist us in planning and as well with decision making. Your point was noted earlier on, as the national was here, that at times they would have their own deficiencies, which also, affect us in a way. But we will have to find ways of bridging the gaps in the meantime, whilst they are also sorting out their whole stories. All I'm saying is that it may just not be only local government. All the spheres have got their own deficiencies. And of course, if we're a government that works towards, uniformly addressing the challenges, where national will deal with what they have to do, province deals with what they have to do, and of course, local government as such. Because your Section 154 actually demands of us to do that, as well as Section 155.6 and 55.7 of the Constitution. The deficiencies you see here are not of the making of local government only, but we do take a part as well as national. And this is why we would want us to discuss broadly rather than presenting what you know as such. So that's why we'll be brief in our presentation, but we'd rather open up a platform where we can engage and interact on the matters that have already been raised earlier on. With that, if you do allow, I would just like that Mr. Nene, just in brief, because of course the story is well known by now, and then we'll come to Dr. Diwane, and we will then interact and engage afterwards, if you so approve, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, HOD, and good afternoon once again to the commissioners and all the other colleagues. Chairperson, I think I would start where our colleagues at National have ended and confirm that in terms of the analysis that has been done, of the 64 municipalities nationally that were classified as not doing well, 4 of them will come from Mpumalanga, and these would be Dibaliseng, Likwa, Dr. JS, and Govenbegi, local municipalities. Overall, Chairperson, in terms of governance, when we talk about governance, we will talk about the oversight structures in municipalities, the functionality of council, and also our Section 79 and 80 committees. We have had a stability in as far as that is concerned. We might have had some problems through the years in municipalities like Govenbegi and Dr. Chase Morocco, where council was struggling to sit because of issues of forming of quorums, because of divisions in council now. But we have since seen an improvement in that regard now. The issues of the colleagues have already alluded to. Indeed, we had a problem for a very long time in terms of bringing unity in the council now. Hence the decision that was taken by National to ensure that we begin to dissolve that council, and National takes over and administrator has been put in place. But I must also indicate, Chairperson, that one of the biggest challenges that we have experienced over the years is the delay in municipalities in filling of the vacancies of critical posts. Now, when I talk about the critical posts, Chairperson, I'll talk about your MM post, your CFO, your Director Technical Services, and also to a large extent, your Director Development and Planning. There's been periods where municipalities have gone for over a year without the CFO post being filled, without the Director Technical Services post being filled. And I wouldn't want to indicate to each person that this then has a direct impact in terms of the municipality being able to deliver the services that it is supposed to deliver. However, as we move on, we have seen an improvement in the filling of these posts. We've also seen an improvement in the turnaround time in terms of filling of the posts. Another issue that I would want to touch on, Chairperson, is the issues around public participation. We have seen an opening up of a gap between the elected leaders and the communities that they lead. And this has led to continuous protests in some of the municipalities. It's what they would call a social distance between the elected leaders and the communities. However, in strengthening public participation, we have been able to make sure that we come closer to the space, working with the speakers' offices, and make sure that we also improve on the issues of public participation. Overall, Chairperson, they've already alluded to that we've had a number of municipalities where we've had interventions in terms of Section 139. I will not go a lot into that, also in terms of the Constitution, but we also currently have municipalities that are still under intervention in terms of Section 139(1) of the MFMA. The colleagues have already alluded to those being Govenbegi, Tabacheo, Emalahleni, Msugalika, and Steve Tretton. We are seeing an improvement, but yes, we must confess that it's not at the rate that we would have wanted to see this improvement. We've had these interventions working with the colleagues in Provincial Treasury for approximately more than a year, close to 2 years now, but indeed we have not yet been able to see the desired results in terms of the improvement in the finances of these municipalities. The other issues, Chairperson, I will not waste a lot of time. I think the colleagues have already alluded to, and I will then also hand over to my colleague, Dr. Diwane, and will then take any questions and respond to accordingly. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I would like to start with on slide 297, just to confirm the statistics in terms of the provincial overview. This will clearly show you what the municipalities presented the district. When you look at the refuse removal, you will note that in the general household 2019, we are very low in terms of percentages. But this 2019 household survey shows that there has been some sort of a decrease in the access to water services. And from our own analysis, the interpretation is that the increase in the population growth could also be an attribute to that, and also the backlog that you still have on the infrastructure in terms of provision by our municipalities. I would like us to move straight to slide 301, Chairperson. In slide 301, I'm just giving you an overview there of the sanitation services. The problem that we have is confirmed by most of the districts, particularly in Karisbande, sewer spillages. It's a very serious problem. In Likwa, we have sewer spillages in Kavenim and in Suwa we have recorded serious challenges, but there are interventions that are being implemented, although we feel that that is not enough. We move to slide 302. In slide 302, we are indicating the capacity of the bulk infrastructure in the municipalities. You will see the municipalities, district municipalities presented mostly on the water and sanitation, but they have not touched on the reservoirs. We are also showing you that we have that challenge across the 3 districts. When you look at the lands anywhere we are, all the municipalities, they have a limited space in terms of storage. I move Chairperson to 305, slide 305. I'm showing the capacity in Karisbande. It shows the very same picture in terms of the reservoir. In terms of the reservoirs, the sanitation, you have a problem across all municipalities except in Ipaliseng on water. When you look at the capacity that is being shown here, the issue of the sanitation in Ipaliseng, I should indicate that there is an issue there in terms of the operators, since the district has also alluded on the infrastructure that they put there in terms of the treatment works. And there's also a problem with the industry in terms of polluting the valve with respect to current beef. There are issues which are being addressed with the municipalities, but there are issues with respect to what they are discharging to the valve, Chairperson. The other issue is on electricity. If I move to 317, Chairperson, slide 317 shows the capacity in the Kamala district. The district has indicated, has presented this information, including the debt on ISCOM. But when you look at the NMD in terms of the MVA capacity, the Emalahleni has a problem, the Emakazeni has a problem in terms of shortfalls. You move to the next slide, 318. You will see that in the city of Mpumalanga, the presentation that you have, it shows -10. It's supposed to be 100 days. It's a plus 100. But what we should have indicated is that in the Babaton area, that means the south region of the city of Mpumalanga, there is an issue where there is that shortfall of 10%. In Tabachewu, there is also that challenge. And with Tabachewu, when it comes to electricity, their matters with ISCOM has even go beyond small courts to the Constitutional Court. I move to slide 319, Chairperson. There we are showing the capacity in Karisbande. In Karisbande, that's where we have most of our problems in terms of electricity challenges. This is the district where the municipalities, the affected municipalities, were even implementing their own internal load shedding, which affects service delivery, causing a lot of problems within the community. And I want to also link that to the question which you've asked in the document you sent to us, whether there is any relation between the audit outcomes and the performance of the municipalities. I will say to some extent, because if you look at Kabelimberg, you look at Likwa, you look at Msugalikwa, when you look at their audit outcomes, you will see that there is a relation. But if you were to take Nkomazi, look at Nkomazi with their audit finding on unqualified audit with findings, when you look at it, you will think everything is good, but you still have infrastructure challenges there. So you must be careful in the manner in which you interpret the relation of this finding. I would like to move, Chairperson, maybe to slide 327. In slide 327, we are just highlighting the interventions of the province, which have also been mentioned earlier. I had also the national DCOC also making input on what we are doing in the province. We have what we call an integrated municipal support plan, which we are implementing in the province, which is assisting in terms of breaking ground or dealing with some of the problems which we have in our municipalities. Not to say, Chairperson, I will not say all the problems are being addressed. We're doing what we could do. The issue of the TBSA, yes, indeed, TBSA is in the province through our department. We have a partnership with them implementing a number of programs, and we have seen to date a budget of 49 million approved by TBSA to intervene in municipalities on programs like master planning, revenue enhancement, asset care, including spatial restructuring. That's where I will end my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, perhaps before we hand it over to you, Chair, still need some time.
It's 10 minutes.
All right,
Listen.
that's sufficient.
Over.
I think what we may have to add as well is that I've had an advantage when I was sitting throughout the sessions, and there was a question that was persistently asked. I don't think that my colleagues earlier on had responded to that question. That's relating to refuse removal or waste management. Why is it such a problem that it is not given such an attention, just like any other service? Why are we thinking that it must occupy that backseat? Because there is no infrastructure. There are no things that the commissioner was actually highlighting. I think the regional manager also was quite correct and spot on in those areas. And our assessment was that of the 4 main services that are offered by local government, that's water, sanitation, electricity, and refuse, the difference is that the first 3 are trading services. In other words, they expect money from those services. Those are the ones that are privatized by municipalities. They feed directly into funding their budgets. That's water, that's sanitation, that's electricity. And every one of these municipalities will rush to talk about the tariffs, to talk about how revenue must be generated and the like. But with revenue, it's unfortunately a social service, just like your fire services and the like. It is subsidized by the other services. And that's why there is no keen interest. And that's the appetite we're trying to boost so that they will see that they should equate all the services the same, because they are to be served in terms of the Constitution, and people have the right in terms of the Bill of Rights, in terms of Chapter 2 of the Constitution, that they ought to have access equally so, just like in the other services. But because municipalities are rushing to look at where do we generate money and how do we get this money on our budget and the like, and that's the main problem. Because you see, with a row of houses, when there are 5, just an imaginary row of the houses, and in the 5 houses, 2 are paying and the other 3 are not paying. You can't say, I'll pick my bin from those that are paying and I'll leave those that are not paying. In a way, the cost exercise that is not compensated upon, it is one of those motivations which are wrong, of course, but we're trying to address to say there must be a cross-subsidization of the services because you do receive a critical share. So there is no justification that it should occupy a backseat because it should be equated the same for all households must have access to these services in terms of Chapter 2 of our Constitution. Of course, the issues of leadership have been repeatedly said here. If I must carefully highlight one of them, just pick on the issue of leadership and the lack of this leadership, whereas they are in the forefront of leading such a very dynamic institution like a local government. It's a problem. someone has said earlier on that we actually receive from the election. When you go to the polls, you actually elect those that you think are best to run this institution like local government. But when we actually receive them, we've got to work with that which we've been given. And that's the problem. It's part of the crux. Because when you look at a system like the executive mayoral system, that's actually power given to an individual. It's just that it happens the individual from the collective executive system, because you are actually pulling in again the opposition element that should really put you on your toes in terms of checking the use and the abuse of the powers that have been given to you. But with the mayoral system, unfortunately, you hardly get that, put on check with what you have to do in terms of the legislation. And that's why we are saying in Mpumalanga, per se, perhaps it's one of the areas that we should go back in the drawing board, because all municipalities seemingly are on the mayoral executive system, that really send us power to those perhaps who may not even have the experience of running magnitude of an institution like a local government. So those are the things that we've picked up as well. And we're saying, no, it can't be right. Well, in terms of the powers and functions, they've mentioned that, but if you do not have an understanding of the background, and you suddenly are driving such a system as an executive mayor, you may just also be set by a number of challenges and the problems there. I think when ending, Chair, just one of the things that I thought that I must take a bite, we may have picked up from the wrongs that put in a stopgap mechanism. That I must confess it is that. But it is broader than just an institution in the municipality. It has recognized that there are so many other actors that should have partnered with government. But because the ground has not been leveled and we have not given such a confidence as well with our system that they can invest in a space of local government. That's why they would rather see government as an entity separate from the contributions that they can make. In other words, the safety net that should have been there for them to actually put their resources in there was not provided. And that's for that reason that private sector, economic involvement, as well as reconstruction and development is about these are things that government never concentrated on in the past. And now we are saying if we want to win the battle, we can't do it on our own. We've got to bring back all the actors, but we've got to clean our system so that there is confidence that they can be a part of the system of getting them, involved as well. Maybe we stop there, Chair, and we'd rather engage so that we can unpack all the issues perhaps that may be gray still that we need to explain.
Thanks to yourself, Babu Mobane, as well as your delegation. There are significant advantages to being the last speaker of the day. All of the questions have been ventilated.
Absolutely.
And there's almost nothing new, which is why even your presentation was so short. And with that, I'm also going to request from the panel, also because we are running out of time, to please be limited in our questions, limit ourselves to only questions and only one question in the interest of the limited time that we have. So I'm going to start with you, Prof. Just one quick question and move over to my far right, please.
Chair, thank you. I must concur. I suppose it's nice to present last because energy levels are equally down. Please allow me. These are not necessarily questions, but probing questions for a conversation. Okay? Nothing scientific. One, what is the state of your relationship with the gentlemen who were there? Secondly, quickly, what is the relationship with your municipalities in the province, a healthy one? Like I said, treat this as probing questions and nothing much. Last, your critical analysis, are you operating at full capacity? And if so, overall, are you happy with your mandate?
Commissioner Spaniani?
Thank you, Chairperson. I won't just ask for the sake of asking. I don't have any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Much appreciated. To the right?
One question, we have had from a submission from the House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders that there are issues around land management in the province. If we could just get a sense of what the issues that are there and what are the proposed solutions. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I guess I could take Commissioner Spaniel's time. Just one issue, actually, I'm glad you are with your Chief Director of Municipal Support. And it's not a question, I would like to hear your comment if it can work. We are going to the to elections, new administration. There's going to be induction of councillors and everybody who comes. Do you think if we focus on councils, you have stakeholders like SALCA, all the stakeholders that operate in the local government space, including Human Rights Commission, by the way, to look at some of these issues, constitution, to induct new councillors. While they are new, let's try to threaten them with some laws, and so that they know that there are things that I think we can plan that in the month of October, arrange a meeting with these stakeholders, plan it. You have 17 municipalities, right? Plan it, divide yourselves amongst yourselves, Human Rights Commission, Public Protector, all of them, put them together, let's share ourselves. Some go to different places, have these inductions, go into Water Services Act, Municipal Systems Act, all those things. I think we can do some, we can make some dent. I will do the same thing in the Free State. Thank you.
Over to you, Babu Kubane, and together with responding to those quick questions, your closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairperson. Perhaps let's start with the one that was asked by the Professor. Well, we have a very cordial relationship with all the spheres. Notwithstanding the fact that indeed it doesn't mean that when we have strong IGR relations, we can't see from that whether there are deficiencies. Yes, indeed, there would be deficiencies. At times we have serious fights with them on the basis that perhaps if there are matters that are not well communicated, well consulted with, when there are plans that are done in the boardroom without consulting us, because they would eventually impact on us, that's where the fights begin. But otherwise, when it comes to the issue of, say for instance, there are stakeholder management meetings like IGR platforms. Sorry?
Closer to the microphone.
Okay. So I was just mentioning the issue of the relationship, that it is there. But it must not be confused to mean that we do not have issues across one another. And where there is a necessity to identify these deficiencies, we do without hesitation, and we find a platform where we can iron out on the matters that we feel that we are not happy about. You asked about the mandate, whether we are happy about it. I must say that there are areas that we are quite not happy, in that the province had a situation where the moratorium was introduced around 2014, 2013, around that time. And over that space, we would have expected that national government would have come, to unpack the challenges, because that had a direct effect on our department per se. Most of the positions are not filled, they are still on acting capacity, and that had a direct effect on the monitoring capacity and the support that we're supposed to provide to municipalities. So it is on those bases at times that you have this mandate given by legislation. You have this authority that is at your disposal, but at times you can't execute it, you can't unleash it, because the resources that goes with that are simply not available. So yes, there are instances where we are not happy, Professor, with such circumstances that we face. Perhaps Babu Bunene will then deal with the question that deals with.
Thank you very much, HOD. I think we are warmly welcoming the proposal around the induction, and I think it comes at a right time. Engagements with the different stakeholders, including SALGA, and it's a matter that we're going to put to the broader forum as a proposal. I think it can only assist us to improve the induction that we will be carrying out. So we're definitely taking that with us, and we welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, HOD. The issue that has been raised by the House of Traditional Leaders, I will think that perhaps it's on the demarcations of their jurisdictions. There's an issue there that is outstanding on the discrepancies, but they should indicate that with the advent of the Traditional Leaders and Cohesion Act, which requires the reconstitutions of traditional councils, the department will be working on the issue of the demarcations to solve the disputes. Thank you.
I think we have been asked that afterwards we will have to summarize and perhaps wrap up, Chair, if we've responded to all the questions. We would like to thank you first and foremost, but I think if you keep this pedal pressed all the time, not only for the Department on local government only, but all the spheres, so that we can connect the dots. Where is the disconnect between national, provincial, and local government? Why things happen this way? I think that's the analysis that I would gladly accept if the fault is in the province or at the national level or at local government level. But that should not be the whole intention or the objective. The objective is to say, if there is such a gap within the system of government, let alone the spheres, that there must be a way, a concerted effort of how we're going to turn around the situation and realize what is promised in the Constitution. The manifestos just now, the political parties are in an electioneering fever. They will promise this and this and that, which is upon their own right to do so. But the point is that we should be able to be realistic, and I like the point you made at earlier stage about the attitude, because where there is a will, there is a way. And we are to do that as public servants, as public officials. Our duty is to ensure that we must put the systems that are right, and we must implement them, and they must bear and must produce results. But as I say, the pudding is just in the eating. If we get people who will show faces that we are to do these things, and we have an ego, we have this energy, we want to do that, but when we are provided with the platform, they do otherwise, that also actually puts the cracks that you were talking about, collapses the system, and of course, it goes against these things. So mine is to say, put the work forward, just like you are doing, as a Chapter 9 institution. And of course, I respect what is said about Section 184 in the Constitution. We will submit ourselves at all times and actually submit to the remedial actions that you would then find unnecessary for us to put in place and implement. Thank you.
Together with yourself, Babundiwane and Babukunene. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate your efforts, your presentation. We certainly will be in touch further, and we take your closing remarks very seriously. We agree with you. Our efforts will not just be limited to local municipalities, but it's a matter of, as presented by National Copter, it's a matter of all of the spheres of government working in unison towards one vision. Thank you very much for your time. The time is now 9 minutes after 4 o'clock. You are officially with that, being 9 minutes after 4 o'clock, we shall now move to the last segment of our program for the week, which will be our closing remarks, which will at the same time form part of our media briefing. I will therefore request us to take a 5-minute break to prepare for the media briefing, and thereafter move towards our closing. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Why when we say that people must live their king, you say no, we must do it? Why do you do that?
Explain that. No, I was saying to leadership. When the right time. No, it was not on the time. It was on the time.
It was this photo that was created the whole week. Who did this more? The photo of it, I know.
Okay,
We're
now
talking about it, right?
Please. This is not for.
This more. Who did this more? We've been talking about the photo the whole week, and there was always a reason not to take it. I'm curious. I want you to talk about the photo the whole week, and there was just always a reason. But you don't have the whole scene.
Oh, it's like the boys reading chapter 1. Yes. All live stream.
So you will look at
I'm coming to find out.
We officially welcome you all to briefing of this inquiry into the state of service delivery in local municipalities in the Mpumalanga province. The South African Human Rights Commission conducted an inquiry on the state of service delivery within 17 local municipalities in 3 district municipalities in Mpumalanga. The inquiry commenced on Monday, 27 September 2021 and ended on Friday, the 1st of October 2021. During the course of these 5 days, the Commission has engaged with and received submissions from stakeholders representing all corners of the province, from both state and non-state institutions, as well as from individual community members and organized civil society against various local municipalities in the province. The issues municipalities to provide water, sanitation, housing, sewage treatment challenges, electricity outages, non-collection of refuse, and potholes on the roads, amongst others. The purpose of the inquiry has been to further investigate these issues, which are largely systematic. On the first day of the inquiry, the Commission received testimonies from the Office of the Public Protector, the Office of the Auditor General, and various community representatives. The Office of the Public Protector, in addressing the systematic nature of these challenges, lamented the lack of consequent management against officials who failed to perform their duties of delivering services to communities. The submission of the Office of the Auditor General painted a gloomy state of affairs in relation to the audit outcomes of the local municipalities in the province. It highlighted poor audit outcomes in municipalities with high levels of unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditures, and the ever-ballooning debt owed by municipalities to Eskom, as well as water boards. To highlight the largeness of the problem with these financial affairs, the province has a cumulative balance of 5.4 billion in irregular expenditure, with 1.3 billion of the total amount accrued in the most recent audit. This is a result of non-adherence to laws, regulations, as well as consequences. This raises questions regarding the proper functioning of municipal public accounts committees, amongst other public oversight structures, which are entrusted to investigate unauthorized, irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure. To alleviate this delinquent state of affairs, the inquiry panel urged the Auditor General to fast-track the issuance of certificates of debt to accounting officers who fail to comply with remedial action of the Office of the Auditor General. The inquiry also heard various testimonies from community members and representatives, which exposed the grim reality of the lived experiences of many communities in the province. Community representatives from Tabaji, for example, and Emalahleni also highlighted the challenges of the dilapidated and aging critical infrastructure, much of which has not been maintained since installation prior to 1994. The issue of aging and unmaintained public infrastructure was admitted to by most municipalities who appeared before this inquiry. Further, the submission of the South African Local Government Association confirms the findings of the Office of the Auditor General, which suggests that municipalities are paying insufficient attention to water and sanitation infrastructure, with only 2% of the budget of municipalities being used for maintenance. This is far lower than the norm of 8%, and thus leads to the degradation of vital assets, such as water waste treatment plants. This in turn has serious environmental and ecological repercussions. The inquiry received devastating testimonies of the desperate measures that communities are compelled to take in order to access the most basic of their human rights in the form of the delivery of basic public services. For example, a community representative from Emalahleni local municipality highlighted how residents have to cross the infamous Moloto Road with wheelbarrows in order to fetch water from the traffic department. The testimonies of community representatives further confirmed the persistence of deep inequalities along similar subjective differences as those determined by the apartheid and colonial orders. In many ways, evidence shows that race, class, gender, and location play a critical role in establishing which bodies are deprived of their basic rights. Most concerning was the plight of rural and farming communities, who are the most underserved when it comes to service delivery. Despite the availability of required resources, the Xanthia Steering Committee, for example, informed the inquiry of severe deprivation of water in their village, despite their close proximity to the Inyaka Dam. The evidence presented to this inquiry by municipalities only confirmed the knowledge at the disposal of the Commission regarding the state of affairs. The lack of access to sufficient water, electricity outages, poor sewage systems, lack of access to basic sanitation, and a lack of refuse removal, aging infrastructure, the use of water tankering systems, which are fraught with their own challenges, such as irregular supplies, poor quality, and corruption, limited water sources, delays in the implementation of bulk infrastructure projects, a lack of capacity and skills, and the general lack of progressive realization of the economic and social rights in the Bill of Rights are common themes in the challenges of the economic and social rights in the Bill of Rights are common themes in the challenges facing municipalities. A number of municipal managers lamented the funding model of municipalities, arguing that the financial resources are insufficient to enable them to deliver in terms of their obligations. This assertion was supported by SALGA. Municipalities also highlighted the challenges they face around revenue collection from residents, as well as the fact that they are grant dependent. They assert that this impedes their ability to fund capital projects and to effectively deliver sustainable services to communities within their jurisdictions. The municipalities also decried the fact that the demand of electricity far exceeds the supply. The electricity caps, as a result of the notified maximum demand set by ESCOM, was decried by municipalities and identified as one of the main drivers of load reduction or load shedding. A number of municipalities also lamented vandalism, theft, unlawful electricity connections, a general culture of non-payment of electricity by households, as well as the withholding of payment by private ratepayers. Municipalities also highlighted challenges faced in the provision of services to farming communities due to a number of issues, such as being denied access to farming areas by farm owners. This poses a challenge for municipalities in providing basic to services such as water, sanitation, and electricity to farming communities. This applies mainly to farm dwellers and labor tenants. Though some municipalities indicated that strong and functional intergovernmental relations exist across various government spheres and levels, the Commission is concerned that if this was the case, there would not be a significant number of municipalities placed under Section 139 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, which in any case has proved ineffective. This is because municipalities placed under Section 139 interventions still regress in future and find themselves again placed under similar interventions. The district municipalities lamented their lack of power in holding local municipalities accountable, hence the absence of consequent management for failures to adhere municipalities accountable, hence the absence of consequent management for failures to adhere to the legislative prescripts by local municipalities. The numerous service delivery challenges in municipalities in Mpumalanga province has led to the inescapable conclusion that national and provincial government is failing in terms of its Section 154, subsection 1 of the Constitution, by which they are mandated to support and strengthen municipalities. Further, the preliminary evidence at hand reveals that not much focus has been paid to the so-called rural municipalities to capacitate them and ensure that they provide sustainable services to communities. This has unfortunately exacerbated poverty and inequality in those communities. The inquiry raised these and related issues with the national as well as provincial departments of cooperative governance and traditional affairs, amongst others. The measures or interventions taken by the department to support and assist municipalities in the province, as well as whether such interventions have yielded any success. The national government of cooperative governance touted the district development model as a strategic blueprint in addressing some of these identified gaps. The Commission firmly believes that given the fact that local government is the sphere that is closest to the people, it is crucial that efforts be strengthened to ensure that local and district municipalities function most optimally. Urgent measures must be taken not only in municipalities in Mpumalanga, but throughout the country to make local government sphere fit for purpose for which it was established for, which is to provide basic services to communities. Therefore, the Commission will, following this inquiry, produce a report with findings, recommendations, and directives aimed at addressing the identified service delivery challenges in the sphere of local government in Mpumalanga. It is regrettable that not all municipalities who were given due and sufficient notice to appear before this inquiry did so. This non-appearance is lamentable and concerning in light of the fact that municipalities, as organs of state, need the necessary assistance in the execution of the Commission's mandate. In the circumstances, the Commission, guided by its enabling legislation, the South African Human Rights Commission Act 40 of 2013, will explore the next steps which should be taken to deal with these defiant municipalities. With that, we thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. We shall now take any questions, if there are any.
No, thanks very much. My name is Mutivi from the SABC Commissioner, you mentioned some of the municipalities that were summoned to appear before the.
I'm sorry, so the program director would like to say something.
Sorry, please speak up. They're struggling to pick up the sound.
I was saying that, thanks very much, Commissioner. The question that I will, thanks very much, Commissioner.
the question that I will ask you is that you just mentioned that some of the municipalities that were summoned to appear before this commission, or for this inquiry, they've not pitched up or they did not come. Then the question would be, it does not mean that the commission, it does not bite. Do you have the resources to bite? Because if they are not respecting the commissioner to invite them to come before you, it means something is wrong. I'm not concerned about that.
Thank you very much for that important question. There's a direct correlation. Thank you very much for that important question. There's a direct correlation between the failure of the municipalities who didn't come to this inquiry, between their failure to come to this inquiry and their failure to meet their constitutional obligations to deliver basic services. It is not a statement against the Commission, it's a statement against the Constitution itself. And this action predates this inquiry which began on Monday. Nonetheless, the Constitution does have certain powers which are afforded to it. Or the Commission does have certain powers which are afforded to it by the Constitution. And as indicated by our statement, we shall be deliberating on the most effective way to respond to those who did not appear. Nonetheless, with that said, we must also keep in mind that the number of those who appeared far exceeds the number of those who did not appear. And therefore, their non-appearance is not in any way a statement that indicates the nature of the inquiry as a whole. I hope that assists.
How many of them that have not appeared here?
I will offer the provincial manager of Mpumalanga to respond to that question in particular.
Thanks so much for the opportunity. We have 4 of them which did not appear. But I can also add to say, linked to the non-appearance of these municipalities is the issue of instability in those municipalities. For example, the reason Steve Twete could not appear is because we are told there are service delivery protests current in that municipality, and that has even attracted the intervention of the Office of the Premier and provincial government. So there are issues of governance in those municipalities. There are even 5 I'd forgotten about Tabatri. In some instances, there have been issues with the availability of municipal managers, and the inquiry has specifically invited executive authority in those municipalities, meaning municipal managers, and not your junior directors or subordinates to the municipal manager. So that's some of the reasons which informed their unattendance at this hearing.
My last question would be to the commissioner, to the chairperson. The question that you are going to compile a report with what has transpired here. Where will this report be taken to?
Thank you for that question. Primarily, the report will be issued to the stakeholders that it belongs to. The work that the Commission does belongs to South Africans, and therefore the report that we issue belongs to South Africans. It is a way to tally to South Africans the state of affairs in the province with regards to service delivery. So primarily our report belongs to South Africans. But in addition to that, we will also be directly issuing the report to the relevant institutions in the form of local municipalities to take remedial action, for example, or further recommendations that have to do meaningful changes with regards to the implementation or their actions with regards to meeting their obligations in terms of the Constitution.
Failing which, if they're not going to act as you taking this report back to them, will you push them to the court, or it cannot be like that?
I'm going to give over the opportunity to Commissioner Spanioli to please speak to that question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chairperson. To speak directly to the question, this process was an invitation to the municipalities and then to come and engage with the South African Human Rights Commission. Now, in terms of our enabling legislation, in other words, the South African Human Rights Commission Act number 40 of 2013, it empowers us to take a stricter step if there is none response from the any entity that we invite and engage. Subpoena is an alternative way of saying a summons, and then in the event a person ignores to comply with a summons without any what is called a justa causa, a just cause, in other words, a reason beyond his or her abilities. It is then that we also put into place our legislation where we ask the NPA, the National Prosecuting Authority, for that person to be charged. And if that person is charged and found guilty, that is got no just cause, penalty thereof would be a sentence of not more than 6 months, or coupled with a fine, or either a fine, alternatively a sentence, or both a fine and a sentence.
And perhaps to add to that response by Commissioner Spanioli is just to highlight that the approach we took was not adversarial, but rather we seek to work in collaboration with the municipalities. Our main aim is to solve the problems. However, we have realized, particularly in the course of this inquiry, that part of the problem involves consequence management. And therefore, in addition to what Commissioner Spanioli is saying, we certainly are going to strengthen our focus on consequence management, and that includes the action. The provincial manager will also add.
Maybe also to add, because I had your question to be more into what happens if the municipalities would not comply with our recommendations and findings out of the report. They have no choice of not complying with the recommendations and the directives unless they intend to take the report review to the High Court. So we will insist on them complying with those recommendations and directives, failing which, of course, one of the powers we have as the Commission in terms of the Act is to litigate, and that would be the last resort.
Thanks very much.
Are there any other questions?
None. None.
Thank you very much. We have now come to the end of our program for listening over the 5 days. In particular, I would also finally like to thank the professor for taking his time away from university. I'm sure many students were happy about this development. Thank you very much, Professor, for your time, for your passion and for your commitment to the development of our country. Thank you, Commissioner Spanioni, as well, for attending, participating, and leading with heart, as you often and always do. The provincial managers, the provincial of the Free State, Mr. Keswa, thank you very much for being part of this team and for adding value through your own. Lastly, the team from the province, the provincial manager, Mr. Mokonyama, thank you very much for your leadership. We truly appreciate the efforts here. This inquiry certainly will be emulated in other provinces. This is not the end. We would like to use this model and to do in other provinces. This is not the end. We would like I believe it in the most effective and meaningful way throughout the country. And of course, then the team, the secretariat from the Mpumalanga office. Thank you very much, colleagues, for your dedication and for the meticulous way that you executed the planning of this inquiry. The technical team as well for your ensuring that we remained connected to those who were unable to be here physically. With that, thank you very much. But of course, I'd like to hand over to the provincial manager for his last words, and then to the program director to lead us out. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. I'd like to firstly thank all respondents who appeared before this inquiry from day one. The support team in my office, the as a whole, and more importantly, you, Chairperson, for sitting in this hot seat the whole week. My colleague, Mr. Keswan, the technical team, the SABC, Mr. Monaleng, and the different communities in Mpumalanga. I am hopeful, and I want to give you some hope that to hands, it is all in better. We have the constitution, the rights. I am so sure that you realize your rights.
Can the whole team please come for the photo, please?